Welcome back to Random History Videos. When you think about the Mongolians, you most likely imagine bloodthirsty savages galloping their way across Great Plains on their way to destroy entire civilizations. But did you know that they are the architects of the modern world? Well, sort of. In today's video, we are going to be learning how the Mongolians invented something that you would never guess, and I'm not going to tell you what it is until the end of the video. It's passports. They invented passports. But stick around so I can explain it and all the other crazy things they did, including what is most likely the most significant thing in history. Throughout history, the Mongolians were a series of separate tribes inhabiting the Great Plains of northern Asia. They were great warriors and extremely powerful, but their problem was that they were never united and they always ended up fighting each other. In the early 1200s, the Mongolian tribes were united under one leader called Temujin. Have you ever heard of him? Leave a comment if you know who Temujin is. Okay, what if I used his nickname? Genghis Khan. Khan rose from being basically a nobody to uniting all of the Mongolian tribes. He did this through fighting, diplomacy, and giving the Mongolians a common enemy: the rest of the world. In just a few decades, Genghis Khan's army built the second largest empire in history. By the way, can you guess who had the largest empire in history? Leave a comment if you know, but I bet you don't because most people actually don't. Stretching all the way from China to Eastern Europe, the Mongols conquered over 24 million square kilometers. That's almost 5 times larger than the Roman Empire. By the way, 24 million square kilometers is about 9.27 million square miles, so you don't have to Google it. The Mongolians were ruthless in battle, but they were also skilled administrators, and they created a system that connected the world like never before. So, how did the Mongolians create the modern world? Let's break it down into 5 sections, shall we? Number 1, trade and globalization. The Silk Roads had been around for centuries, but they were dangerous and disorganized. The roads were controlled by warlords and infested with bandits, a kind of land pirate who would hide out in the mountains and prey upon unsuspecting travelers. This meant that trade was limited as merchants didn't really want to risk their lives crossing the roads. The Mongolians changed that. They secured trade routes, wiped out thieves, and turned the Silk Roads into a superhighway of commerce. Silk, spices, paper money, and even pasta, all of it spread between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe because of the Mongolians. They basically invented global trade centuries before the modern economy. Now, trade between East and West had always been a thing. I mean, after all, the Romans loved a bit of trade with Asia. But under Genghis Khan, the scale increased exponentially. Number 2, technology and ideas. Okay, so as I've mentioned, paper money. The Mongols popularized paper money by expanding and enforcing its use across their vast empire, building on earlier Chinese innovations from the Tang and Song dynasties. Under Kublai Khan, the Yun dynasty issued government-backed paper currency, replacing metal coins and creating one of the first fiat monetary systems, with strict laws to ensure its acceptance. The significance of this is that it enabled large-scale trade across their empire and influenced global economies. Other technological advancements came in the form of wildfire, medical techniques, and even the printing press. That's right, the printing press. The Mongolians facilitated the spread of printing technology by adopting and improving upon Chinese block printing, helping to standardize paper currency and official documents across their vast empire. Their influence helped spread printing techniques to the Middle East and into Europe, indirectly contributing to the later development of the printing press. Without Genghis Khan, the European Renaissance might have never happened, or at least it would have been delayed a bit. The butterfly effect of history is a strange thing. But there is one more technology that the Mongolians spread from east to west that changed the world more than probably anything else in history. Can you guess what it is? I'm going to tell you at the end, as I feel it is so significant that it needs a full explanation. But for now, let's move on. Number 3, passports and international travel. The Mongolians had an official passport system called the paisi. It was a small plaque that granted safe passage across their empire. If you had one, you could move freely, access supplies, and even demand fresh horses at relay stations. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's basically a medieval passport. They did this to encourage trade. Number 4, religious tolerance. So unlike most empires, the Mongols didn't force people to convert to their religion. They allowed Muslims, Christians, Buddhists and Taoists to practice freely as long as they didn't rebel. Mongol leaders even had religious debates in their courts trying to figure out what the best faith was. They weren't the first to do this. In fact, the Romans did it over 1,000 years earlier. Well, sort of. But it's still worth mentioning, especially when compared to medieval Europe, when you could be burnt at the stake for heresy. The Mongolians were arguably more tolerant than most nations of their time. Number 5, the postal system and international communication. 300 years before Royal Mail and 800 years before Amazon, the Mongolians invented a relay postal system called the Yam. Riders could travel up to 200 miles a day on horseback, carrying messages, trade goods, and intelligence reports. Now, Europe did have a messenger system on horseback, but it was significantly less sophisticated than what the Mongolians had. And it wasn't really an international thing. Carrier pigeons were used to relay messages between European aristocrats, but the Mongolian system was at a whole nother level. The Yam was so efficient that even Marco Polo, yes, the famous trader, wrote about how advanced it was compared to what he'd seen elsewhere. Okay, so now let's talk about the number 1 technological advancement that came to Europe via the Mongolians. This is something that changed the course of history more than probably anything else and definitely shaped the modern world. So, what is the modern world? When do you think the world became modern? The Renaissance? The Industrial Revolution? There's really no right or wrong answer, but in my opinion, the gunpowder revolution was perhaps the most significant factor that turned history into, well, the modern world. The Mongolians played a crucial role in the gunpowder revolution by spreading Chinese gunpowder technology across Eurasia during their conquests. By integrating gunpowder weapons like bombs and fire lances into their warfare and facilitating its transfer along the Silk Roads, they helped lay the foundation for the widespread adaptation of firearms in Europe and the Middle East. Now, there was, however, a dark side. Let's not pretend the Mongolians were all great. Their empire was built on destruction, and Genghis Khan is one of the most brutal rulers of all time. It is estimated that Genghis Khan killed between 40 and 60 million people in the 1200s. That's more than Hitler, and the global population was so much smaller back then. Khan wiped out between 10 to 15% of the entire global population. He was an absolute psychopath beyond measure. Nobody in history has ever killed 10 to 15% of the global population. Just by comparison, Chairman Mao killed between 40 to 80 million people between 1949 and 1976. But this was only 1.5 to 3% of the global population. I say only, it was still abhorrent. Stalin killed between 10 to 20 million or 0.5 to 1% of the population. Those are just rookie numbers. Seriously, Stalin, step up your game. Khan wiped out entire civilizations. Baghdad leveled. The Khwarezmian Empire erased. The Mongolians used psychological warfare, biological warfare. Oh yeah, they hurled plague-ridden corpses over city walls. And they also used sheer brutality to get what they want. They were absolutely mental. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the Mongolians also accidentally introduced the bubonic plague to Europe. The bubonic plague killed between 75 to 200 million people worldwide. That's in addition to the 40 to 60 million people. Seriously, it's an absolute miracle that anyone survived the Mongolians. So, what's the verdict? Did the Mongolians create the modern world? Well, they didn't invent trade or global connection, but they did supercharge them. They made the world more interconnected than it had ever been before. The Mongolians destroyed a lot, but they also laid the groundwork for the world that we live in today. Now, I said that they invented the modern world. I didn't say they were nice. I'm not a bloody ethicist. So, what do you think? What is your opinion on the Mongolians? Let me know in the comment section, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm really trying to get 1,000 subscribers. If I can hit 1,000 subscribers, I can get monetized, and then I can take YouTube more seriously, and that benefits you, as you will get better quality videos, so we all win. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.